With the release of Dark Souls Remastered, my old blacksmithing guide is getting more hits than ever. And it's no wonder, really. The game doesn't explain upgrading equipment at any length, and it's not exactly like it's intuitive or easy to figure out either. Some blacksmiths are pretty difficult to find, even hidden. There's many problems with the original guide, however. It's from 2011, when the game was still new, and I was new to YouTube. So I put a poll up in the old video, asking if people wanted me to remake the guide. Over 90% of people said yes. So here's my remaster of the Dark Souls Blacksmithing guide. Let's just hope it's more well received than the Dark Souls game remaster. Before we jump in, make sure to subscribe and click the bell for semi-daily content and more Dark Souls remastered videos to come your way. So where do we begin? There's a lot to tackle. Let's start simply with upgrading equipment. Most armor can be reinforced, upping its stats. Rings and accessories typically cannot be upgraded, with a few exceptions like Estus, where Estus can get more charges and more healing per charge. That's an entirely different topic, however. Most weapons can be ascended, changing their scaling, or even removing it altogether. What I think perplexes most people who aren't familiar with the game are the weapons. There's so many to choose from to begin with, each having these unique little scalings based on a letter grade. As you see here, it goes Strength, Dex, Intelligence, and Faith. E is the lowest, and it goes E, D, C, B, A, and then S, S being the highest. On top of that, many weapons can be ascended like I mentioned previously, changing or removing the scaling altogether, and it gets even more complicated with that. Do note that scaling from dexterity and strength add physical damage, while intelligence and faith will add magic damage to your weapon. There's not great info about weapon ascensions in-game, or how to choose which one to use especially. Let me do my best to break this down. Between all the blacksmiths, there's quite a few choices. Don't worry if you don't know where to find some blacksmiths, I'll touch on that at the end a bit more. So, Andre, Rickert, the Giant, and Vamos, or Vamos, whatever you want to say, are the 4 blacksmiths. And let me give a little more info here. Now, I'm not going to go over a lot of this. I know there's a lot of info to process already, so I don't need to break it down and go into it all. You guys can pause and figure out what you want to do. But I will go over a few of the important and relevant weapon upgrades here, the ones you might want to go for. And if you don't know where to get these mentioned embers, I'll link to my video that shows all the ember paths at the end. So let me touch on a few that might be good for you, depending on what build you want to do. Because I think that's what most people want to know, right? You don't really care about all of this. You want to know what would be good for you. So, 11 to 15 is like a weapon can be ascended there when you get the very large ember at Andre, the first blacksmith most people encounter. So, just to sum this up, this is very good for people with high strength or dex when you have a weapon that uses those scalings. So if you're using an Uchi Katana, you scumbag, now I'm joking. If you're using an Uchi Katana and you have a high dex build, making your Uchi Katana just plus 15 would make it do an immense amount of damage. It's very good, but it's also very limited. You have to put a lot of points into strength or dex to get the effectiveness out of the scaling of the stats. So this is more for a damage-focused build. You're going to trade off a lot of survivability and endurance early on, even equipment load, you know? So this is more for a damage-focused build. It's quite good for that. Now the other few I want to mention are lightning and fire. They're both similar. They completely remove scaling from the weapon. So you could have just the base requirements, which I'll show again real quick. You could have just these base requirements met, you know, if it's 10 strength, you would just have that base requirement met. And then you would be able to use that weapon. And then if you make it fire or lightning, they scale off of just the level of the weapon. So if the level of the weapon is lightning plus 5, it's going to get all its damage there. It doesn't have to be changed any more than that. You don't need any stats or dex besides what is required to equip it. This is very strong if you want to focus a lot on vitality and endurance and make your character more survivable and mobile, and then still have a good offense. That's what those are good for. Now, lightning and fire, the key differences are lightning goes only to plus 5, and it's much less resource intensive, as well as the fact that lightning is something that a lot of enemies aren't strong against. There's a few enemies that are quite resistant to it, but that's much less common than fire. Now, fire does go all the way to plus 10, so I believe it's stronger than lightning in most cases, if you have the resources to invest in upgrading it all the way. It also requires Deimos, like I said. He's the quite hidden blacksmith. I'll give you guys more info on that at the very end. But yeah, there's a lot to digest here, and again, I'm not going to go over it all. One more I want to mention is boss souls. You can make a lot of unique weapons with boss souls. They require, obviously, different boss souls and a different base weapon. You can find more info on that on the wiki. I'll link that down below. But you can find a lot of cool and unique weapons. If you want to check this out, you just need to go to the giant with the boss soul, and you can see what you can make. Those are very interesting, some quite good. The last thing I want to touch on is what's not really good. And a lot of this isn't. The crystal will break very fast and never be repairable. Magic, enchanted, occult, and divine weapons, they're all not really that good. I know they're good for what I listed here, you know, high int, high faith. But the chances are, if you're doing a high int or high faith build, you're not really using a weapon typically. Now it is good for, you know, killing the smaller enemies where you don't want to use your miracles or your spells on them. It's good for that, but it's not incredibly relevant. So I would avoid these weapons typically and just stick to the other few that I mentioned, because it's probably still better to use a fire weapon to kill those little enemies than a divine or occult weapon. They are quite unique, and I'll go over their secondary effects in a moment here. But like I said, I would typically steer clear of magic, enchanted, occult, and divine. Raw it's like okay, it's not great. And then the last thing is chaos. Chaos is pretty unique. It scales off of humanity to plus 10. Only to plus 10. If you have 50 humanity, it doesn't matter. It's the same as 10 humanity, damage-wise. They're kind of interesting. They have a little bit of scaling. I don't think they're that great, personally, but you guys feel free to try it. It's something a little unique if you want to, if you want to try it out. So yeah, if you guys want to go ahead and pause this video, do that now. If you want to read more of this and have this broken down. One last thing I want to touch on before I talk about blacksmiths and embers is the secondary effects. You might think by now you have all the info about all the weapons. There's still a little more, and these are very small and typically less noticed. So bleed is the first effect listed here. It stacks up over several hits and leads to a big burst of damage. You might have noticed an enemy doing this to you. After your bleed bar fills, it's just like this massive like blood explosion, you know? It's kind of weird. I don't think the effect is aptly named, personally. Poison and toxin stack up over time on hits and lead to a lasting damage over time effect. Toxin draining your health more quickly, but also ending more quickly than poison. Lastly, divine and occult are quite niche and harder to notice. Divine and occult do more damage to certain enemies. Divine does extra damage to skeletons and the harpies in the painted world of Ariamis. So it's a pretty unique enemy, you don't see it a lot. Divine weapons will always permanently kill skeletons and prevent them from raising again, however. Yeah, you know, if they had a necromancer around the guy, the little skull lantern, he can raise them, but if you kill them with divine, it would permanently kill them. So that's one, you know, pretty niche use. Kind of interesting. Silver Knights, Black Knights, Ornstein, Gwendolyn, and Gwyn himself take more damage from occult. So the number is listed here, you know, where the divine and occult squares are. If you see 110 or 105, it would mean 10% or 5% more damage. So that's what that correlates to. So yeah, that's secondary effects in a nutshell. And the last thing, again, I want to touch on is the blacksmiths and where to find them. You know, there's a lot of them here. Let me take all that extra info off the screen. I will link to my original video, which shows all these, and I might just leave a link to someone else's video. I don't know if I need to make my own on all the blacksmiths. Maybe I will, but I'll link to different videos down in the description below on where to find them, because especially Vamos, he's kind of tough to get to. So if you want to know about those, check the description. And the other thing is the embers. I've made a video on all the embers. I actually did forget the enchanted ember, but it's unlikely that you'll want that too badly. But I'll link to my video with all the ember mounts. It's pretty old, so give old me a bit of a break. I was quite young. But yeah, that's most of the info I wanted to go over. Thank you guys for hanging out and checking out the tutorial, checking out this guide, this blacksmithing guide. I hope you have all the info you need now, but if you don't, if you have any more questions, if you want to leave a comment, I'll respond as quickly as I can, and then I may pin that comment after, so everyone can see what you commented. If I forgot something, they'll have the info from you. So thank you guys very much. Please remember to leave a rating and like the video if it helps you at all or you enjoyed. And share this with anyone that you're getting into Dark Souls that may have questions. And I'll see you guys hopefully soon if you're subscribed. Thank you guys for watching.